What's in return? What's in return for your help? I don't ask for anything in return. Will you accept what I'm offering you? I'm also struggling every time I see your heart tormenting you. You're still your mother, I promise. If you accept the surgery I offered, I won't show you anymore, so that you don't think everything I do is for my own benefit, and so that your heart can be reassured. Another day, another story. We will listen to it today. I'm Sam, your servant. Come and join me in the thrill of the story I'm going to share with you. I told you not to call me, but sir, you're fired. Keith quickly hung up the call from his secretary. Annoyed, he took off his clothes and earphones. He took a deep breath and glanced at his watch. It was 6 o'clock. His strict instructions to his employees in the various businesses he owns are not to call him once work is done. He sped up his driving, heading to a place that eases his tiredness. A bar full of alcohol and women he can enjoy. Good evening, Mr. Velasco. The bouncer greeted Keith as he entered. He was immediately approached by a waiter and guided to the top of the bar, where he usually sat, away from the crowds. The young billionaire looked at the dance floor, where women and men danced to deafening music. Sir, whiskey, the waiter offered, placing a glass on the table. Keith went over and sat on the sofa. He took the bottle of wine on the table, poured himself a drink, and looked at a few women at a nearby table. It's true, Keith Velasco is here, someone at another table said. The millionaire smiled arrogantly upon hearing it. He sipped his drink and turned away. Some girls were shyly inching closer to his table, obviously wanting to be near the young man. A beautiful stranger walked gracefully, holding a lady's drink. Keith looked seriously at the mestiza woman, who was already across from his table. You look alone, she said. You're still loose in your seat. We can still fit here, right, girls? She turned to her friends and they settled themselves around the sofa. Keith pulled off his suit jacket, purposely smiling more sweetly before looking up at the women who approached him. Sure, he said casually. The girl who first sat next to him was momentarily shocked, but then beamed. As the night went deeper, people were enjoying themselves inside the bar. Meanwhile, Anna was ordered to clean the VIP table. She hurried upstairs carrying a serving tray. She paused when she saw a couple kissing casually on the dance floor, shook her head and continued up. Such a scene was normal in her line of work. She arrived at the VIP table, where glasses and a bottle of wine were scattered. She started cleaning and wiped some dirt off with a rag. Straightening her back, she carried the full serving tray and turned around. Her face changed slightly when she spotted a man surrounded by drunken women who were practically clinging to him. He was wearing a suit and tie, clearly enjoying himself. Anna recognized him as the young billionaire. She quickly turned away, hurrying downstairs. Day, did you see the customer in the VIP? Her friend and co-worker Joanna asked excitedly as Anna entered the kitchen. They say he's a billionaire. Did you see him? Anna, who was putting glasses in the sink, just nodded. Hey, it's like he's a leading man in a Hollywood movie, Joanna went on. He's so handsome. She paused, seemingly remembering the man Anna had seen earlier. Did he order from you? Anna frowned. He was surrounded by women. What would he need from me? I thought maybe he was just being friendly, Joanna said, concerned. Anna smiled at her friend. Most of them are just being friendly, right? Joanna shook her head. But that's a billionaire. Wow. He's a total package. Like 10 out of 10. You just know he's going to be popular among women. She excitedly guided Anna toward the front, where their manager stood. The manager looked around. There you go. Wait, I'll volunteer, Anna, the manager said. Joanna pouted. The VIP is requesting a beautiful server. Am I not beautiful? She teased, smiling at the manager. You're too beautiful, the manager joked. That's why I'm staying out of it. Go ahead, Anna. Manager, Joanna whined, but the manager waved her off. Yes, manager, Anna finally agreed, forced to obey. She then said goodbye to Joanna. Anna's feet paused when she reached the billionaire's table. The women were still there. She took a deep breath before approaching. Sir, what would you like to order? Ladies? Keith glanced at the women around him. What do you want? He asked them. Then he looked up at the waitress. For a moment, he was stunned by the innocent look on her face. Anna looked into the billionaire customer's eyes, slightly frowning, but saying nothing. Sir, your order? Anna reminded him. Huh? Are you okay? Asked the woman beside Keith, snapping him out of it. He swallowed before looking back at Anna, who was clearly unlike his companions. Something about her drew him in. "What is your order again, waitress?" he repeated, feeling like it was the first time he'd ever been tongue-tied. The woman on Keith's arm spoke up. "Can we get a shot of tequila, please?" "Yes, ma'am." Anna wrote it down. She glanced up again and met the steady gaze of the billionaire, who still hadn't moved. She felt an odd helplessness under his stare. Keith, still dumbfounded, shifted uncomfortably when the woman next to him leaned her head on his shoulder. He quickly shrugged her off and stood. He caught sight of Anna going upstairs again, then returned to his seat. He carelessly lifted the woman next to him, draping her arm around his shoulder and acting casual. Meanwhile, Joanna approached with a tray of drinks and set them down. "Your order is here. Enjoy." She turned formally to leave. Her feet froze for a moment when she heard the billionaire's voice. "Wait!" "Yes, sir," Joanna asked, thrilled. Keith looked at her seriously, then at the waitress whose back was turned. Anna blinked. She knew she was the one he was actually calling. She took a breath before turning around. Their eyes met, and she felt strange nervousness. Still, she kept her composure. "Sir?" Keith slowly removed his arm from under the woman's chin while still looking at Anna. "Waitress, sit here." One of the other woman's eyebrows shot up. "Won't you let me sit down?" Anna felt her annoyance rising, but managed a polite smile. "I'm sorry, sir, but my job here is to serve customers. Besides, aren't you satisfied with the people already next to you?" Keith tilted his head toward the women around him. "There's still space here, and I think someone like you would fit here better." Anna noticed the raised eyebrows of the women. They were clearly annoyed that Keith was inviting another woman to join them. She was about to protest when Joanna almost bumped into her, grabbing her by the arm to pull her away. Anna shot her friend a warning look. Joanna, however, turned toward Keith and introduced herself. "I'm Joanna, sir," she said, attempting to flirt. The girl next to the billionaire snapped, "Hey, you don't belong here? You want to take my spot?" Joanna glared back. "Don't speak English to me. I can't understand you. If you don't want me here, you leave." The other woman stood up angrily and looked at Keith for a reaction. Anna met his gaze seriously. "Number? What you're asking me to do isn't part of my job, and I don't want to associate with your girls, especially since I don't like men like you." She turned to Joanna. "Come on, let's go." They left Keith in disbelief. "Day," Joanna said the moment they got into the kitchen. "Why would you reject such a handsome catch? He's a billionaire." Anna shrugged, taking off her apron. "I'm not interested. I just want to go home." "That's a pity," Joanna said, disappointed. Anna just shook her head, pulled out her hair tie, and grabbed her things. "I'm fine. Be careful here, okay?" She passed through the bar's back door, heart pounding. Suddenly, a cat jumped, and she clutched her chest in surprise. Her heart raced, and Joanna, having followed her, came to her side, worried. "You okay? Water? Medicine? Hospital?" Joanna asked in a panic. Anna gave a small smile. "I'm fine, Day. I was just startled by the cat. You know I shouldn't have sudden shocks, but I'll be careful next time." They both laughed a bit nervously. Joanna guided her to stand up straight. "I don't know what I'd do if you had a full attack." Anna reassured her friend. "I'm okay. You go back inside. My heart didn't fall out." She left, still hearing her friend call out, "Take care of your heart." Anna smiled sadly. Ever since she was a child, she'd had heart disease that limited her life. She could not afford heavy emotions or physical exertion. As much as possible, she tried to remain calm. "I'm here," Anna called as she opened the door to her home. "You're late," her mother said gently, offering an arm to support her. "Did you work overtime again?" "Yes, Ma, just 2 hours. That's extra wages," Anna answered. "Have you taken your maintenance meds?" She glanced at the table holding her mother's medicine. They shared the same heart condition. Her mother nearly lost her life while pregnant with Anna, but Anna survived miraculously. She believed she was destined to live and see the world. "I applied to an organization," her mother said as they sat for dinner, "for your operation." Anna paused, stunned. "There's a chance you can live without these limitations," her mother added gently. "Mom, there are children out there who need that free surgery more than I do," Anna replied softly. She had grown up standing in long lines for medicine and hoping for free surgery, but as she got older, she simply worked to pay daily expenses, including medications. She gave up on the idea of surgery, living off medication instead. That night, Anna lay on her bed, phone in hand. I don't know why drunken women keep swatting at him. Ugh, it's annoying, her friend on the call said. Anna shook her head. Let them live their lives. Me? I don't like guys like that. I'll just have a heart attack. All right, I'm going to sleep, her friend answered. Take care. Anna hung up, gazing at the ceiling. She thought of the billionaire's eyes, so beautiful, yet so arrogant. She shook her head, unwilling to be deceived by a handsome face. Keith woke up the next morning, remembering only one face, the waitress. She was simple and very different from the women he usually met. Smiling faintly, he got up, discarding the thick blanket from his naked body. We'll meet again, he said confidently before standing. Sir, you have a meeting at 5:30, his new secretary reminded him. Cancel it, he answered flatly. But Sir Keith, it's an important agenda. It's less important than what I have to do, he cut her off, closing his laptop and standing. He buttoned his suit and stared off with determined eyes, as though making sure he'd see that beautiful waitress again. At the bar, Anna greeted the manager. Can I do a double shift? She asked. I'm fine, and I'm not behind on my meds, so I won't push myself too hard. I just need the extra money. The manager hesitated. I don't want to be responsible for extra medical costs if something happens. But fine, only if you're sure. Thank you, Anna said. She turned to find Joanna applying lipstick. Wow, you're already wearing bright red lipstick? Anna teased. Of course, Joanna said. There could be hot billionaires around, and maybe one will fall for me. We need to be ready. She winked. Early bird catches the worm. Anna just shook her head. The manager's just doing his job, so don't let looks or money sway you. You're talking about Sir Keith, right? Joanna teased with a grin. No, Anna insisted. I only work for my mom and my medicine. Those billionaires, especially Velasco, I won't waste my time fantasizing. Anna put on her apron and fixed her hair. Let's get to work, she told her friend. They headed out, the music blaring inside the bar. People were drowning in alcohol, men and women alike. Good evening, Mr. Velasco, someone greeted Keith, who walked in casually. His eyes roamed around mischievously, as if looking for someone. He glanced up at the VIP area, noticing a waitress coming down, but it wasn't the one he was hoping for. He took a breath, trying not to be obvious, and moved to the sofa he occupied last time. The woman from the previous night, Nicole, tried to talk to him, but he had barely any memory of her. The only thing he really remembered was the waitress who had refused him. He looked at the person beside him and said sternly, Get out. What? The man began, frowning. Keith just stared him down until the man stood up and left. Sir? A waiter asked, approaching. Call your manager. I have a special request, Keith said with a sly smile. Meanwhile, Anna set bottles of wine on a table and stood up, wiping sweat from her brow. The manager approached her. Anna, go up to the VIP, but Robert, our head waiter, is already there. He trailed off when they both spotted Keith, arm on the railing, staring down at them. He's requesting you specifically. Anna frowned, giving Keith a dirty look from afar before climbing the stairs. He smiled faintly, watching her come closer. What's your order, sir? Anna asked formally, pen and pad in hand. She approached, carefully avoiding his gaze, but she could feel his eyes on her. You, Keith said in a low voice. She gripped her pen. Slowly, she looked up and met his eyes. If you're not ordering anything else, I need to get back to work. There are many customers. Excuse me, Anna said, turning to go. Before she could step away, Keith caught her arm. Their eyes clashed. Don't be so uptight, he said casually. Sit. Let go of me, sir, Anna hissed, feeling her flesh tremble under his grip. She struggled to wrench free, but he was strong. She met the billionaire's gaze and grew angrier at his confident smirk. He leaned in closer. You know what? Your lips are really tempting, he said, staring at her mouth. Anna clamped her lips together, heart thudding. She pushed at his broad chest, shocked at how strong he was. They stared at each other. A small smile appeared on Keith's lips at her nervous face. He leaned toward her, clearly attempting to kiss her. Anna turned her face away, but Keith quickly gripped her cheek and pressed his lips to hers. He let go just as quickly, smirking. Anna gasped, wiping her lips in outrage. Without hesitation, she grabbed the nearest wine and splashed it on his face. "You're rude," she practically shouted, tears of anger in her eyes. Keith lurched forward, water and wine dripping. "Don't you like it?" Keith asked. Anna slapped him across the cheek, making him reel back. "What kind of man are you?" He stood there stunned, while he held the cheek she'd slapped. Meanwhile, people around them started to murmur. Anna's voice trembled with fury. "Not all women will like a rude person like you." She raised her index finger accusingly. Keith took a deep breath, unable to believe what he was hearing. Normally, women fell at his feet. This was new, and he hated how it felt. "You should be grateful I even gave you attention. You're just a waitress," he began angrily. "I might be just a waitress," Anna snapped, "but I have more dignity than you." Keith fell silent. Anna clutched her chest, which was beginning to tighten from stress. She bowed her head for a moment before glaring at him again. "You're the worst man I've ever met," she said harshly, her eyes shining with tears. Her words hit Keith hard. No woman had ever had the courage to speak to him like that. Anna wiped her tears, turned, and hurried down the stairs, but her legs wobbled and she nearly fell. Joanna quickly rushed over to support her friend. "What happened?" Joanna asked, alarmed. "I can't breathe," Anna whispered, clutching her chest. Keith watched them, breathing heavily, still unable to believe he had been slapped. The rest of the night, he couldn't focus, thinking about how his impulsive action had caused her so much distress. Inside his office the next day, Keith was restless. He couldn't sleep the night before, haunted by what he had done to that woman who so boldly caught his attention. He spun in his swivel chair, recalling her tears. He felt a twist of remorse. Finally, he drove to the bar. The staff noticed him arrive early. "Mr. Velasco," the manager greeted. Keith looked around. "Where's the girl I requested last night?" "Anna, sir," the manager said. "She's in the hospital." "What? The hospital?" Keith asked, feeling a sudden jolt of worry. He went to the public hospital, entered a ward, and carefully opened a curtain. His heart clenched at the sight of Anna sitting in bed with an IV drip. When she started to turn, he quickly slid the curtain shut, stepping back. He remembered the manager's explanation. "She had an attack last night, tightness in her chest. She's had a heart condition since she was a child." Keith closed his eyes, realizing he was the reason she'd ended up there. Inside, Anna's mother asked, "Who did you see, Anna?" "No one. Ma, maybe I just imagined it," she answered quietly, glancing around as if expecting someone. A couple of days later, Anna insisted she could work. "Are you sure you can handle it, Anna?" her manager asked, scratching his head. "I can, manager. I've rested 2 days and I have a doctor's permit," Anna reassured him. She was desperate to earn money to pay her hospital bills. "All right, but only 2 hours," the manager finally agreed. Anna smiled gratefully. Keith returned to the bar that same day. He felt his pulse quicken when he spotted Anna coming down the stairs. Their eyes met. Anna felt her own heartbeat speed up when he grabbed her arm, but she quickly pulled away. "I'm really sorry," Keith said quietly. "I didn't mean it." She gritted her teeth. "Next time, don't just go around kissing people," she snapped and hurried down the stairs. "You talked with Sir Keith?" Joanna asked. "Yes," Anna replied, deciding to avoid Keith altogether from now on. Just then, the music in the bar stopped. A male customer started yelling angrily, apparently drunk. Keith ignored the woman he was speaking to and looked down to see Anna cleaning the floor littered with broken glass. "I'm sorry," Anna said, bowing slightly as she picked up shards. "It just slipped out of my hand." "You worthless waitress," the drunk customer shouted. "You owe me for that glass." "I'm really sorry. I'll change your order," Anna said, turning away. The drunk man grabbed her arm. "I'm not done talking to you." Before he could tighten his grip, Keith suddenly clamped down on the man's wrist. His gaze was cold and serious, making the customer quickly drop Anna's arm and wince in pain. Anna groaned slightly, still clutching her chest. Keith turned to face the customer with a menacing stare. He looked at the man for a moment and took the serving tray from him. "You see?" he asked the drunk man, who was now trembling with fear. The man nodded. "If you don't want this tray crushed in your face," Keith said, glancing casually at the girl, "then apologize to her." The drunken customer mumbled to the staff member, then fled the bar in a hurry. "Are you hurt?" Keith asked the waitress in front of him. He eyed the departing customer. Is your heart okay? That was when she met the young man's gaze and noticed his attention on her chest. She swallowed and then nodded again. Are you sure? Keith added. Yes, Anna replied. Keith turned to the other patrons in the bar who were watching. Mind your own business, people, he said, signaling the DJ to continue the music. Anna lowered her eyes. Thank you, but you didn't have to do that, she said softly, feeling a bit shy. I should do that, he replied. Think of it this way. If I'm behind you, I might as well protect you. There was a tremor in the billionaire's voice, and Anna looked up at him. He called out to a waiter from a distance. One hurried over. As Keith passed by, he slowly glanced down at Anna. You're tired. Go home so you can rest. He didn't know why, but his heart clenched with concern for her. Anna closed the locker door. She paused, staring blankly, remembering the sight of the billionaire and what he had done for her earlier. Joanna soon grabbed her arm excitedly. I heard what happened. Sir Keith was like your knight in shining armor. Joanna squealed, practically dancing with excitement. Anna tried to look unbothered and merely nodded, but Joanna kept shrieking. So, are you really Sir Keith's type? You know, if you weren't sick, you would have given him your number, right? Joanna's questions rolled out so quickly that Anna held up her hand. Over the moon, aren't you? Yes, I can see that he's interested, but so what? Anna admitted softly. She recalled how strangely fast her heart had been pounding for the billionaire. But when the door behind the bar opened, there stood the young man himself, holding a drink. He stayed where he was, raising his hand slightly. Okay, I'm here. Relax, the young man said. Anna swallowed. Their eyes met seriously. What are you doing here? She asked, her tone still cautious. Keith's gaze turned mischievous. Me? I'm just taking a walk, he claimed. Anna couldn't believe it. She looked around at the dark surroundings outside the bar. A walk? Here? Yup, Keith said, as if it were perfectly normal. She remained confused, so he explained further. Don't think I was waiting for you out here. But the billionaire had indeed come specifically because he'd asked her co-workers where she was. Without another word, Anna adjusted the bag hanging from her shoulder. I'm going to enjoy my scenic stroll, she joked, stepping away from him. Are you following me? She asked when she realized Keith was walking behind her. Of course not, he replied. I'm strolling too. He held out his palms to show the empty street. Anna shook her head and kept walking, thinking the billionaire with all his money must be crazy. She heard him whistle. Keith smiled, watching the young woman walk slowly, the wind blowing her hair. All at once, Anna stopped, clutching her chest. She bent over, nearly falling. Hey, are you okay? Keith asked urgently, rushing over. He felt for her waist, supporting her. Anna saw the worry in his eyes. I'll take you to the hospital, he said. She met his gaze and he froze. She slowly shook her head, catching her breath. His arm was still around her waist. Carefully, she opened her old bag and fumbled for her medicine. Keith held out his palm, which was trembling slightly, and Anna glanced up at his face, her heart suddenly beating faster for another reason. Come here, sit down first, Keith said gently, guiding her to the side of the road. Wait, what should I do? Water! You need water! Stay right here! He sprinted off so fast that he nearly took Anna's sling bag with him. She watched him race toward a convenience store, then stared vacantly at the spot where he'd disappeared, clutching her chest. Moments later, Keith ran back, breathing heavily, and handed her a water bottle. Say, sorry. She took it, drank her medicine, and then sipped the water. Are you okay? Keith asked, looking at her closely. Anna managed a small nod. Try to breathe properly, he said, demonstrating with a deep inhale. Anna gave a small smile, and Keith was stunned by it. Why? She asked. Are you more nervous than Joanna? Me? Nervous? He attempted a laugh, but it sounded forced. Anna's smile still lingered as she stood. My bag. I need to go home. Keith collected her things. Anna, I'll walk you. She frowned and blinked, uncertain. It's dangerous not to have someone with you, he insisted, his voice serious. Let's go, he added. Anna simply followed Keith, who started walking in front of her. It was quiet on this long road until they reached the busier intersection where she'd catch her usual jeepney ride. Why are you still working if you have a heart condition? the billionaire finally asked, breaking the silence. I have no choice, Anna answered sadly, taking a deep breath. His hand slipped back into the pocket of his suit. If my illness ever takes my life, I can't just sit around waiting for that day, because I have a mother I need to help, she continued. She stopped walking when they reached the side of the road and raised both arms for her bag. The billionaire handed it to her. Thank you, Mr. Velasco, she said. A bashful smile played on her lips as she stood against a backdrop of passing cars. I can take you home, Keith offered. I can manage. I don't want to bother you. They exchanged glances, recalling what had happened between them. Keith's tone turned serious. About last time? Forget it, Anna cut him off, eyes darting away. Tonight she'd seen another side of him, a kinder side. I've already forgotten, she added, managing a slight smile. That's good to hear. Keith nodded, relieved. Maybe I'm not the worst man in your eyes anymore, he teased hopefully. Anna stared at the shy expression on the billionaire's face, just as a jeepney honked nearby. They both turned at the sound. I am thankful again, Mr. Velasco, Anna said, then quickly climbed into the waiting vehicle. She settled onto the seat at the back. Glancing one last time at Keith, standing there, she murmured under her breath, Maybe you're not the worst man I've ever met. The jeepney pulled away, and Keith watched it disappear. He was stunned when he opened his car door the next morning and heard a familiar voice. A woman came running up to him. He watched as she approached. I waited for you last night. Why didn't you come back to the bar? Asked the stranger, catching her breath. She placed a hand on his arm. Keith just stood there, expression hardening. Lowering his sunglasses, he asked, And who are you? Samantha, she answered arrogantly. I was with you the other night at the bar, remember? Keith frowned. He had zero recollection of her. I don't know you, stop bothering me, she persisted. What are you doing later? There will be lots of girls, we can have fun. I'm not interested. He opened his car door again, but the woman grabbed it, stepping closer. She narrowed her eyes. Who are you interested in then? That cheap waitress? Keith's brow furrowed. He slammed the door shut and turned to face her fully. Yes, I'm interested in her. And who are you calling cheap? The woman fell silent at his glare. I haven't even gotten to know her well, Keith continued, but I'm sure she's nothing like you. Without waiting for a reply, he climbed into his car and drove off. I guess you came here early, Mr. Velasco? A staff member at the bar greeted him with a friendly smile. He stopped and looked around. Where's Sir Keith? Joanna's excited squeal cut in as she practically bounded up to him. Are you here to visit someone? The billionaire opened his mouth but didn't know how to answer. Ooh, Sir Keith, Joanna teased. Do I need to say the name? You already know who I'm talking about. He tried to hide his awkwardness. I'm not a mind reader, Joanna teased him again. So how would I know if it's the manager you're looking for or someone else? Keith sighed, then spoke plainly. Where is Anna? Joanna's face lit up. Oh, are you sure it's Anna? Are you excited to see her? He shook his head at the staff's silliness. Did she come in today? She hasn't texted me, but I think she rode the Jeep. Maybe she'll be here soon, Joanna replied. Keith pulled out a chair and sat casually. Joanna did the same. Are you courting Anna? She asked. Is it called courting? Keith murmured. All he knew was that he wanted to see Anna, which was why he was there. I don't know how to court anyone, he admitted. Usually women chase after me. Exactly, Joanna said, wagging a finger. You're a billionaire. Women flock to you. Right, which is why I have so many exes, Keith joked dryly. Then all at once he asked, Does she dislike me? Joanna nodded slowly. She said she doesn't want to be one of your many women, especially not just a fling. Keith's expression turned pained. He leaned back in the chair. After a moment, Joanna mustered a sympathetic smile. But don't worry, I'll help you. Anna was surprised when the tables she was supposed to clean had already been tidied up. Joanna, did you finish all the work? She asked, eyes wide. Joanna approached her with a knowing grin. There's somebody who doesn't want you to get tired, so he already did your tasks. Who are you talking about? Joanna simply motioned with her head, and Anna followed her gaze to see Keith, Mr. Keith Nathaniel Velasco. Joanna introduced him by name, half jokingly. Shyly, Anna stepped forward. Joanna elbowed the billionaire. Go on, place an order, she teased him. Keith took a deep breath. Even if I'm a man in your eyes, you can still consider me someone who wants to pursue you, he said awkwardly. Anna blinked rapidly, perplexed. Huh? What nonsense are you talking about? Well, we don't know each other very well, just like you said, Keith explained. You told me to forget our first meeting, so I'm introducing myself properly to you now. Anna nodded slowly, still looking confused. I see. I'm going back inside. She turned around, trying to avoid any more awkwardness. Why don't you say you're officially courting her? Joanna whispered to Keith. I can't, he replied nervously, eyeing Anna's figure as she walked away. A little later, Anna started descending the stairs carrying a full serving tray. Keith gently took it from her hands. Let me help with that, he offered, handing it off to Joanna before she could protest. The billionaire then held out both palms to Anna. Come on, take a rest. Maybe you're tired. What's your problem? She asked seriously. Nothing. Why am I here and helping you? Is it still about what I did to you last time? Keith sighed. I told you it's fine. I've apologized. Anna cut him off. I've forgiven you. Keith took a deep breath and carefully took her hands. I'm here to help you, not because of what happened last time, but because I really want to. Flirt, Anna blurted, quickly pulling her hands away. I can't be in your collection of women. No, that's not, Keith tried to say. That's not going to happen, she insisted. Besides, you yourself said I'm just a waitress. I'm sorry, I was wrong. I shouldn't have said that, Keith answered earnestly. Anna pointed at him. How can a billionaire like you possibly like someone like me? Of course you're not just a waitress. You're more than that, Keith said, his voice gentle. Anna gave a fleeting, uncertain smile. Keith's heart pounded strangely as he stared into her eyes. Without warning, though, she remembered the many women who'd been around him. She stepped back. Sorry, but... She paused. When their eyes met again, she finished resolutely. I won't like you. It felt like a knife slicing into Keith's hopeful heart. The girl turned and disappeared from his view. He bowed his head. This was the first time a woman had rejected him, now when he truly wanted to be serious. Anna stumbled into the kitchen, clutching her chest in shock at the billionaire's confession. Her weak heart was pounding too hard. It's okay, Joanna said, worried, rushing to support her. Let me call for help. Anna's knees buckled. She held onto the table for balance, but then the door burst open and Keith rushed in. He saw immediately how pale she was, her eyes half shut as she clutched her chest. You'll be fine, Keith said, voice shaking, gathering her into his arms. He scooped her up and ran to the nearest hospital. Anna awoke slowly. It was hard to move, and a thin tube was attached to her arm for the IV. She sighed weakly. Anna, how are you feeling? Celia asked, helping her to sit up. I'm fine, she murmured. I have good news, her mother said happily. The hospital called. They've scheduled your operation. Anna's voice remained weak. Really? Yes, Mr. Velasco offered to take care of everything, Celia said tearfully, holding her daughter's hands. Thank God, Celia added. But who is this Mr. Velasco? I want to thank him personally for his kindness. Just then the door opened, and Keith walked in, carrying some papers. I got all the medical records, Mrs. Francisco. The ambulance from St. Fatima Heart Hospital is also on its way to transfer Anna. Thank you so much, Mr. Velasco. Her mother clutched one of Keith's hands gratefully. Anna, confused, looked from Keith to her mother. Yes, child, Celia explained gently. Mr. Velasco is offering to cover your surgery and hospital expenses. Anna shook her head adamantly. Mom, we're not leaving this hospital, and we're not accepting Mr. Velasco's offer. Her voice rose with emotion, and she quickly clutched her chest from the exertion. Her mother jumped in alarm. What's wrong? Are you feeling pain? Keith stepped forward but froze, unsure. He wanted to help her, but she refused to accept anything from him. Later, Keith shook hands with the doctor after stepping into his office. How is Miss Francisco? He asked. The doctor handed him some files. The veins that supply blood to her heart are blocked. In some cases, a full surgery might not be necessary, but in her condition, it is. Her heart is weakening by the day. She needs to be operated on in a specialized heart hospital. We simply don't have the facilities for that here. Keith felt the doctor handed him some files. The veins that supply blood to her heart are blocked. In some cases, a full surgery might not be necessary, but in her condition, it is. Her heart is weakening by the day. She needs to be operated on in a specialized heart hospital. We simply don't have the facilities for that here. Keith felt a bolt of concern. Celia carefully wiped her daughter's mouth as she finished feeding her. "Why won't you accept Mr. Velasco's help?" she asked Anna gently. "He has no reason to do this," Anna replied weakly. "What if there's something he wants in return?" Celia's face tightened. "What do you think he wants?" Anna recalled the women Keith used to be with. She feared that in exchange for paying for her surgery, he might want her as one of those women. "I'm sorry, Mom," she said, eyes filling with tears, "but I can't accept what Mr. Velasco offered." From across the room, Keith stood, gazing sadly at Anna's sleeping form. He'd been coming to the hospital for days, and this was the only place he found any solace. He felt her struggle as if it were his own. He wasn't sure how Anna had filled his heart so quickly, but every time he saw her, his world seemed to stop. Suddenly, Anna began gasping for air. "Doc! Nurse!" Keith shouted, hitting the emergency button. Nurses rushed in, asking him to move aside so they could treat her, but he couldn't tear his eyes away from her distressed face. Anna opened her eyes with great difficulty, feeling weaker than before. She didn't have her former strength. Blinking, she saw Keith near her bedside. His hand was clasped around hers. "How do you feel?" he asked gently. She still didn't have the energy to speak. He lowered his gaze to their joined hands. With one hand, he pressed her palm to his cheek, then gazed back at her face. "Please accept what I'm offering you," he whispered. "I'm struggling too, every time I see you in pain. I want you to live. If you let me help you, you can be with your mother longer. Accept the operation I arranged. I won't show myself to you anymore," he finished, voice trembling. Anna's gaze sharpened. She tried to speak but couldn't. Keith gave her hand one final gentle squeeze, tears pooling in his eyes. He slowly stepped back. This wasn't what he wanted, but it was the only way he could save the girl he couldn't stand to lose. If she despised him, so be it. He'd do anything for her survival. He turned and walked away. Anna clutched at the blanket, her vision blurring with tears as she watched him go. "Child," Celia said, "the ambulance is here to transfer you to the private hospital." She held a small bag, looking happy and relieved. Anna cried silently as she looked at her empty palm, remembering Keith's warm touch from a few days ago. The next day, the doctor who operated on her smiled. "You can go home soon," he said, and Celia immediately squeezed Anna's hand. The doctors and nurses at this good hospital treated her well, and cost wasn't an issue. Keith had covered everything. Anna forced a smile, thinking of the last time she'd seen Keith. He had promised not to show himself again. In the operating room, it was his image she dreamed of. It was too late, because she was now sure he wouldn't appear. She'd been harsh and distrustful. She should be happy the fear of becoming just another woman of his was gone, but that wasn't how she felt at all. Yes, Keith was a womanizer before, but that wasn't his whole identity. Deep down, he had a heart that cared for her. "How are you?" Joanna asked, coming in to visit. "I'm fine," Anna answered softly. "Tomorrow I can leave the hospital." "That's good news, Day. But did you know ever since you disappeared, Mr. Velasco also vanished from the bar? I heard from some female customers that the Billionaire no longer entertains them." Anna's own heart clenched, pulling her emotions in all directions. Every time the door to her hospital room opened, she hoped to see him walk in, only to be disappointed. 3 weeks passed, and though she was healing from the surgery, the longing in her heart remained. No medicine and no doctor could cure that. Anna stirred awake when she felt someone touch her hand. She sat up quickly but found no one in the room. Keith's feet stopped in the hallway. He had left the room the moment he felt her stir. He was secretly visiting her every day to check on her progress. He thanked God her operation had been successful. He also prayed for her recovery and promised himself he would change, giving up casual flings. If Anna wouldn't be with him for life, he'd rather remain alone. He was about to step away when a soft voice called out, "Keith." Anna stood there, staring at the billionaire's back. She realized she hadn't been dreaming moments ago. He really had touched her hand, and the warmth
His own
was
tears began to
unmistakable.
fall.
Her hands pressed gently against his stomach. "May I ask something?" Anna whispered, her cheek pressed to his back. Finally, he turned around so they could face each other, tears and longing mixing in both their eyes. "What is it?" he asked thickly, wanting to hear her speak. She stared at him. "Can you take back the payment for my surgery, the part where you said you'd never show yourself to me again?" Tears rolled down her cheeks as she nodded, answering her own question. "Because I really don't want you to go," she confessed, voice shaking. She held his hands. Keith's eyes shone with hope. Gently, he tugged her closer. They fell into a tight embrace, Anna closing her eyes. She had once sworn she wouldn't like someone like him, but now she knew the billionaire had changed. The proof was right there in his arms. "How do you feel?" "Your heart?" Keith asked softly when they finally drew apart. "I'm okay," Anna replied joyfully, letting him see that she understood his concern. He exhaled, relieved. "I know I can't stay away from you. Even if I tried, I'd keep looking for you. Anna, if you give me a chance, I promise you're the only woman I'll ever love." Gently, Anna took his hand and pressed it to her cheek. "When you gave my heart a chance to heal, it never forgot you. It's ready to believe and love you completely, Keith." The young man smiled through tears, hugging her again. Anna couldn't stop her heart from loving the one it chose to love. Keith leaned down and placed a tender kiss on her forehead, then down to the tip of her nose. "Can I kiss you?" he asked, his voice quivering with emotion. Anna nodded, barely above a whisper, and he carefully tilted her chin up. Their eyes locked for a moment before their lips met in a soft, mutual kiss. A kiss not forced, one that blossomed with genuine love in both of them. From that day on, Keith took Anna home from the hospital and cared for her. He proved his feelings in every way he could. 2 years later, he proposed to her, with her mother, now healthy, smiling by her side. Anna, preparing her body to bear the child of their love, still couldn't believe how everything had changed. Keith, for his part, felt grateful every single day that the fragile heart he so feared to break was now entrusted to him. Once upon a time, they were just strangers in a bar. Anna's heart, weak as it was, had found its way back to him. She realized she had been given a second chance to learn, to believe, and to love with no regrets. Keith, who had once lived surrounded by shallow flings, now belonged to only one woman. They faced each other, smiling in contentment. Anna's once limited life beat with new purpose, and Keith held her hand gently as they walked toward the future